Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to another video. I am Em of Em Reads Books, and I read books. It's as simple as that. So today, what I am doing is sort of like a unsolicited review of MyTBRCo, which here, TBR, instead of standing for to be read, is tailored book recommendations. So I remember seeing this about maybe a year ago by Kayla from Books and Lala, and I was just obsessed. I just thought that this was the best idea that anyone could have ever had, where it's like, your job is to recommend books to people. Like, yes, but the prices are a little bit steep, honestly. So I paid $16 for just the recommendations, not the books. If you wanted the books, it's $80. And like, I don't know, you know, if it's gonna be that good yet. But that's what we're here to see. So, I have an email from them saying, it says, your pigeon is ready. I don't really know why it says it's a pigeon, but the email says, ready the confetti cannon and brace your bookshelves. Your TBR selections are ready. So I haven't clicked this at all. I wanted, you know, my reaction to be 100% real. And I might sort of like put in, we'll see how good at iMovie I get. I might put in like some details or something. Ooh, okay. So, I actually should also say, like, tell y'all, what it is that I said I like. Because as we know, you know, I will read anything. I mean, I draw the line sometimes when it comes to nonfiction and historical fiction. Those generally just sort of aren't my thing. But, we are, you know, gonna go through the questionnaire that they give you. Because, oh no, okay, so I went to go through and click my, my little profile, and I can see the 3 books that they recommended me. Admittedly, 2 of these I was already thinking about, and one of them I've been hearing a lot about. But that's not the point. My TBR profile, that's what I wanted to look at. Okay, so they do have, you know, where you can say books that you like, books that you don't like. So what I said for my all-time favorite books, I said The Starless Sea, A Darker Shade of Magic, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, The Name of the Wind, Gideon in the Ninth, and The Fifth Season. So there's a lot of sort of fantasy going on in there. I was trying to sort of, you know, get it in the right age range, I guess. And then they asked about any books that I hated, and I said, you know, basically if it's a 2-star or below on Goodreads, that means I didn't like it. But, you know, I need a book to actually have a plot, and I don't like it having too much flowery language. And by that I just mean, like, you know, you can just say he walked across the room. I don't have to know how he's feeling while he walks across the room. You know? I don't know. That might just be a me thing. And then I said, you know, in terms of content warnings or like deal breakers, those were all, you know, I'm fine with anything. For the favorite TV shows and or movies, I said The Boys, Law & Order SVU, The Umbrella Academy, Dead to Me, Secondhand Lions, and Agretzko. So a lot of that is sort of just recency biased, to be real. But I think those are some pretty good shows. Me and Law & Order SVU, we agree. I said that my favorite genres were fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, mystery, YA, and new adult. And I did also mention that I'd love to read more across genres, just because I like to read lots of different books, you know? And I said that the last couple of books that I really loved were Norse mythology, Grown, Anxious People, Home Before Dark, and The Wicker King. So I just went into my Goodreads and picked off the last 5 stars that I had put there. And so they send you like a nice little letter. I assume that that's sort of explaining why you would like, why they think you would like each of these books. This letter is so cute. So it says, "Hi, Emma. Welcome to TBR. For your first order, I'm giving you a couple books in genres you don't read too much of. A witchy fantasy horror and an enemies to lover romance, and a twisty sci-fi thriller. Don't forget to let us know what you think of our recommendations so we can keep improving them for you." Now, before I even go into this, I think that, so these 3 books are all mainstream. I've heard of all of them, which, you know, I feel like I would be kind of disappointed if I had already read these, but they do incorporate your Goodreads account into it because they don't want to recommend you something that you've already read. So the first book that they recommended was The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. And so their sort of rationale here was as follows. Since you want to read more across genres, I think you should start with this horror novel set in a Puritanesque town. When Emmanuelle wanders into the woods, she encounters the coven of witches once driven out of Bethel and accepts a dangerous gift from them, inadvertently triggering a series of plagues. As Emmanuelle searches for a way to stop them, she's shocked to learn of the horrors committed by Bethel's own leadership, especially its revered prophet, and as the plagues hurtle towards their bloody conclusion, Emmanuelle must tap into her own dark powers to save Bethel from the plagues, the witches, and from itself. Okay, so this sounds like, it kind of sounds like we're gonna get some horror, a little bit of like elements of magic. We're gonna get like, it's in a Puritanesque town, so that sounds like historical fiction to me, but I'm still really excited about it. I think that sounds like something that I would like, you know? The second one is Beach Read by Emily Henry, which there's literally no way, because like, okay, this is not on my TBR. I was a little embarrassed to put it on my TBR. Not to read it, but just to have it there. So she could not have known, and when I say she, it's Chelsea is my recommender. But there's no way she could have known that I wanted to read this book. Admittedly, this was a Book of the Month book, as was The Space Between Worlds. And so it's possible that she may have picked up on the fact that I have recently started using Book of the Month and I like it. But also B, you know, these are sort of, generally speaking, win-wins, right? Like, they're kind of like surefire. So if you haven't read, oh my god, Stitch, stop. Why? Thank you. So here's her rationale for why she recommended me this book. So next up is this romance novel about an acclaimed literary fiction author and a best-selling romance author who live in neighboring beach houses. Augustus and January couldn't be more different, but both are dealing with writer's block, so they enter into a deal. They'll each write something completely unlike their usual fare, something more highbrow than January's swoony romances, and something lighter and happier than Augustus's fiction. Along the way, they take literary field trips and, of course, fall in love. This is a smart and charming read that runs the emotional gamut. And so, you know, I think that this may be a romance that I'll actually like. I tend to, you know, gravitate away from romance books just because I'm not here for sort of like really smutty stuff, or honestly, I remember there was one book where they just would not stop talking about nipples, and I was just like, But I think hopefully this will be sort of a tamer romance, more focused on the characters themselves than on the actual love. But we'll see. So the last book is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, which I don't know why I hadn't put this on my TBR yet. Like, because I want to read it. It's so great. It's like sci-fi with multiverse stuff put into it, but I want to see why she thinks that I'll like it, apart from the fact that I will. So, since you like sci-fi, I think you should try this twisty novel in which travel between worlds is possible, but only for those who don't have a counterpart still living in the world they're visiting. Lucky for Kara, not so much for her counterparts, hers die frequently, making her a perfect candidate for multiverse travel. In exchange for her help with off-world research, Kara's plucked from the wasteland and given a comfortable life. But when one of Kara's few remaining alternate selves dies mysteriously, she's plunged into a plot that threatens the whole multiverse. Alright, so this is 100% giving me Dark Matter by Blake Crouch vibes, which is, basically anything that talks about the multiverse or sci-fi in general, I start thinking about Blake Crouch. And this sounds like it's going to be a really good book. And I was sad. So I started Book of the Month in September. And this was a Book of the Month for August. And, I'm poor. So I didn't get it. But I am excited to read all of these books. I think that what I might do is sort of start with this and then maybe add in some vlog components of me actually reading the books, because I think that seems like a great idea. And I'm gonna start putting some holds in at my library for these. Alright, y'all. I am here. It has been a while since I have vlogged, but I am currently playing a kind of game with my library of chicken, namely that they keep lending me books, right, which is their job, and normally you get 3 times that you can renew them, and they've been changing my 3 times to 0 times, so the game that we're playing is how fast can I read a book before it's due. And so I should mention that I already have quite a sizable pile of books, just sort of sitting in my area, but they did this to The Space Between Worlds, which is one of the 3 books that I need to read for my TBRCo video, which is probably the video that this is going into, but I'm also currently reading Middle Game by Sean McGuire, and it's going great, but I'm only 200 pages in, and this is like a 500-page book. So that is what we are gonna do. I am just gonna buckle down, start reading this book. Stitch is up there on the bookcase because that's what makes him happy, and let's go. I don't know how well you can hear me just because I'm wearing a mask. I'm at Merlin's Beard, my favorite board game cafe. I'm going to be working on my paper, but I did start Year of the Witching, which I know, given what I was talking about before, you would have thought that I started Space Between Worlds, but my library just sort of randomly decided that no, Year of the Witching was the one that was due back in 2 days. So, I'm liking it so far. It's weird. I feel like, I don't know, I'm like maybe halfway through it, and it's definitely, this sort of puritanical atmosphere, very focused on religion and sin. But I don't know, part of me feels like at the end there's going to be some kind of twist where it's like beyond the wall is modern society or something like that. I don't know. I'm just saying it now. That way I can say if I was right, although that may or may not be a spoiler. But I'm going to be working on my academic paper now. I might also be doing my bullet journal spread today. So we shall see. So my camera died in the middle of filming my little middle game inspired bullet journal. But so what happened was basically as soon as that was done, I just sat down and finished Year of the Witching. And I have some thoughts. I don't know. It was fine, right? Like, it was a fine book. It had twists, it had turns, it had plot, you know, all of the twists and turns were pretty predictable, and it's like, I liked it. I gave it a 3-star on Goodreads, just because, like, I don't really know how to put it into words. Okay, clearly I am just not made for this. Okay. We're just testing my tripod setup. Okay, anyways. But yeah, I don't really know how to put it into words. It's just that, like, so Emmanuelle, I didn't feel like she was a very fleshed out character, and like Ezra, I liked him, but you know, he wasn't really doing it for me. Like, it seemed like he was just there to sort of save Emmanuelle. And I mean, admittedly, she's fully capable of doing any of this so-called saving herself. Like, the book makes that abundantly clear. But it's like nothing happened a little bit. And I don't know, you know, people like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld is a TV show about nothing. But I don't want to read a book about nothing. So I guess that's sort of my take on it. It's well written. It's like sort of beautifully gothic, but it's just not for me. But in its defense, I will say that historical fiction isn't really my genre. I mean, admittedly, it's sort of just more of a fiction. I don't want to call it gothic, but like, it was historical, right? It was definitely sort of like a period piece. Not my thing. I think the closest thing to a historical fiction that I've read lately that I enjoyed was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that is like not even, that's like barely historical in terms of like historical fiction. But I'm moving on to The Space Between Worlds, and I'm like 60 pages into this so far. Really enjoying it. Basically, like, you know, I've said this before, I think I said it in the very beginning of this video, that, you know, she's traveling in between worlds, and like and that's her job. She's called a traverser, I think, which, first of all, great name. And, you know, there's sort of all of this, I would say, political intrigue in her Earth, and all of the other Earths, right, they're just it's just a multiverse. So it's like if one thing changed. So it's still present in those universes. And there's already been one twist that I just didn't see coming. Admittedly, I could not have seen it coming. It was in like the first 20 pages. Like, literally impossible. But it does make sense, and it's just like, and it's just kind of like, it's this twist, which I'm not going to talk about. I don't want to spoil it, but it has already made the book so much more interesting. It's added all of this tension to the situation, because, oh, I can't even tell you why. Okay. I'm just gonna put like a spoilers. I'm gonna talk about spoilers for the rest of this little clip, and then you'll skip to, if you don't want to hear the spoilers, just skip to another part. So, basically, Kara, I'm gonna call her Kara. I think that's what I'm doing. She is Kara from another multiverse. And so, like, the first that Kara came to her, like, place and died, and so she went back. That part's a little confusing, just because there's supposed to be a rule where you don't go to an Earth that you are still alive on. But I think something went wrong, and they did. And so she took the little communicator and went back. And so she's having to figure out, or like over these years, she's had to figure out, you know, what their life was like on this Earth. So, for example, like family members that might not have existed on your Earth. She also had a relationship with someone they're calling him Nick. But basically, you know, it's kind of like a thug mafia sort of guy. And I'm so into it. Like, you know, if I were to rate this book right now, right, like right this second, I would say solid 4 stars. And I'm just hoping that it's going to get even better. I don't know. Good morning. It is a new day. What day is today? I don't even know. Today is Wednesday, October 28th, maybe. But I finished reading The Space Between Worlds last night. And it was good, but it was only good. And so what I mean by that is, like, you know, I would say halfway through the book, I was on the hype train for it. It was just like, yes. And then it's kind of like all of the twists that had already happened were negated in a way. And I'm just like, if you're gonna twist, like, commit. So I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Mostly because it sort of devolved into just entirely political intrigue at the end, and we lost almost all of the sci-fi, which I was just like, I'm reading a sci-fi book, I want it to be like sci-fi. But, you know, overall it was still good. I liked Kara. I really liked Dell and Mr. Cheeks. And Esther, definitely Esther. They had a lot of sort of powerful females in this book, which I stan, always. But now, the question is, what do I read now? Because the last book in my TBRCo sort of video idea is to read Beach Read. But I know for a fact that I am going to be reading that for next month of Playbookers. So, do I start Jade City? That's the real question. Because I've been wanting to read it. It's on my year-end TBR, right? I also have Dune here, and that was also on that list. But Dune is really long. And so I'm probably gonna, I think that's gonna be like the next book that I read, like the next, if that makes sense. But I'm also, you know, I'm gonna go for a run today, with my friend Tim. I might take you guys along just to, I don't know, sort of hang out a little bit. Not on the run, because otherwise that would just be me panting the entire time. But we shall see. I just feel contractually obligated to film some of these Halloween decorations because we have a zombie research facility, a pumpkin eating a heart, I got the zombie with labs and a strobe light, and a whole bunch of tape. Alright, it's been a hot minute. I think it's been like a week. But alright, so I finished Space Between Worlds. I think we talked about that already. Then instead of immediately reading Beach Read like I thought I was going to, I read Jade City. It was great. But that's not what this is about. And then I started to like try to read Dune. Didn't happen. I made it 27 pages in and then gave up. So then I picked up Beach Read. And after reading Dune, man, was this a change of pace that I really enjoyed. I read like maybe 60, I think, pages last night before bed. And I'm already liking it. I really like the dynamic between January and Gus. And considering that the last 5 books that I've read have all been fantasy and kind of like dark, honestly, just having something so light and fluffy is a palate cleanser for me. So I am here, I am in my pajamas, and we're gonna be reading Beach Read. Okay, so it's like 2.5 hours later and I just finished Beach Read, and it was so good! Like, okay. So the thing that I usually hate about romance novels is that, like, I feel like I can't identify with the characters. I feel like, you know, you're only there to read kind of like smutty stuff. And like, it was so good. Like, this is the best romance book I've read in a long time, and I really liked January. I really liked Gus. I loved everyone in it except for Naomi. I don't like Naomi. But I don't know, it's weird that that this TBRCo, right, the recommendation that did the best for me was the romance one. I don't even know. Like, how? Oh. But yeah, so I think that's the first book that I've read in the month of November, and that's a pretty high bar for the other ones to follow. Wow. Yeah, I guess like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. I can't really make any promises on when they will come out or what they will be about, but they'll be about books. I'm busy. I'm trying to graduate. And yeah, keep reading.